lot of them, and every one of them said to me they want to rebuild. I said, will you go elsewhere? No, 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 no. It wasn't even like a question. They love the area. They love the people. It's like a family. It's incredible, actually, when you see some things like that. We just left North Carolina, and we had just a similar type of disaster. It was water instead of fire, but boy, that water did damage like I've never seen before. And then you come here and you see this. But the people are so amazing, and your fire department was so beautiful. No. Every one of them is in perfect physical shape. I said, what do you guys do? They have very high standards, I could tell you.
He loves talking about how hot people are,
all of them, but,
which I do respect.
Very nicely, they gave
He's
us,
such a goddamn diva. He is such a diva, dude.
You wear this, huh? Is this real? And they said, yeah. I said, it's awfully heavy. You have to be very strong to wear that. But that's the original, right? So it's pretty good. But I just want to thank everybody. We're going to be with you. Your governor met us at the plane. And we had a good talk, very, very positive talk. We have to work together to get this really worked out.
Mr. President.
Mayor, please.
Yes. First of all, let me just take the opportunity to officially welcome you to Los Angeles. Really appreciate you coming, and especially you come just a few days after your inauguration.
Glaze.
So
Thank you.
I want you to know that your presence here is
Glaze,
very much appreciated.
Karen, glaze.
Let me also say that I know you had an opportunity to see the devastation. You've seen the extreme loss, the grief that people are going through here. And we are 100% committed to getting this neighborhood rebuilt again. You mentioned a couple of things in terms of us expediting. So I signed executive directives right away so that we could cut the red tape, we could get people back building as fast as possible, and we're going to continue doing that.
Yeah, the one thing is they are saying they will not be allowed to start for 18 months.
No. That will not be the case.
Okay, I just hope you're right.
You can hold me to it.
Here's the other side. He just asked the tariff halt.
They should be able to start tonight.
He asked the halt on tariffs because he's talking about Canada specifically because they need lumber to build.
Getting rid of the hazardous waste, cleaning things up so that people can start right away. And just like you said, if somebody had their house was destroyed and they're going to rebuild essentially the same, maybe a little bit longer, a little bit higher, they really shouldn't have to go through much of a process. So I want you to know that we are expediting that. We absolutely need your help. We need the federal help.
You want to build the same house?
You will have no permit.
The same house that burned down? This is what I'm truly worried about this. The fact that they're talking about like rebuilding the same houses in the area that was completely wiped out is insane. Like you have to fireproof it somehow, man.
18 months, exactly. And they were devastated. They want to start now. They want to start removing things. They're not allowed to do it now. And you mentioned hazardous waste. Well, the hazardous waste, what's hazardous waste? I mean, you're going to have to define that. We're going to go through a whole series of questions on determining what's hazardous.
Nope.
I just think you have to allow the people to go on their site and start the process tonight.
And we will.
Okay, good.
You can come back and check.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I'm Congressmember Judy Chu, and I represent the areas of Altadena and Pasadena.
Yes.
That's the Eaton fire. And there is a world of hurt there. I know that you've gone to the Palisades and you've seen the devastation,
right,
but it's apocalyptic in Altadena. And thank goodness I have a partner with Supervisor Catherine Barger in working to help people get back to normal and to rebuild. But right now they have nothing. And there have been 9,500 structures burned. Most of the deaths have occurred in our area with the Eaton fire. And thousands of people are without homes. And these are working people. These are working class people. They are people like Dr. Jackie Jacobs, who was an educator all her life and then finally became the first Black administrator of her educational institution, Pasadena City College, and then retired, now 88 years old, and then her home of 30 years burned in Altadena.
Yeah.
She has nothing. She left with only the clothes on her back. She has nothing. And so they need this help. And I just want to make sure that you remember the people in Altadena and Pasadena, and that you can come there and see how terrible the devastation has been there so that they can get the help that they need.
Just remember one thing, and I like the way you express yourself beautifully, actually, but I've only been here 3 days, and I'll do a great job. But we had another president, and this took place during the life of another president, not me. But I'm going to be the president that's going to help you fix it, because he would not have been able to help you fix it, okay? So we'll take care of it. We'll take care of it, and we'll work closely. Yeah, we'll work closely, and I know your community was really devastated, incredibly, so we understand that. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, I'm just going to follow up. Supervisor
Yes, please, go
Barger, and I also represent Altadena, and what I tell people is, people of Altadena are the exact people you talked to when you were running. You've got individuals from every walk of life, and it is actually, at one time, was the only place African Americans could purchase homes. It was redlined. And so you've got a lot of generational wealth there. And one of the
No, don't tell him that.
And we've had meetings.
Don't tell him that. He's not going to let him rebuild.
You've got there now.
Stop.
To work with them and work with your administration to see how we can help. And I've been pleasantly surprised. I know on HUD we've got some asks that we are going to be
like,
working with
African American neighborhood, you say.
I just really want to emphasize what Congresswoman Chu said, and that is
so sad that it burned to the ground.
Who are feeling forgotten. And what I tell them is, and when we invited you out here, I told, when I went to the AME church, this president was talking to you when he was running. You understand the difficulty in making ends meet. You understand the high cost of living. And now their biggest fear is that that's going to impact their ability to rebuild. And I have made them this commitment, because this is my last term, that for the next 4 years, you talk about 18 months, I've told our county staff that if you're going to get in the way, then get another job. Because we are an all hands on deck. And quite frankly, if the bureaucracy can't get out of the way, we'll just roll over it. And we've said that, and we've made it clear. The governor's waived CEQA, which I feel should be completely reformed, if not eliminated. And if it's being eliminated for this...
How are they doing with CEQA?
How are they doing
How
with
is it? What's been the attitude of the people running that whole situation?
It adds sometimes years on to an application.
Can't do it. Can't.
No, and the governor's...
And Coastal Commission also.
He waived that.
We're going to have to override the Coastal Commission, because
Right.
I've dealt with the Coastal Commission for a long time, and they are considered the most difficult in the entire country. And we cannot have them play their games and wait 10 years to give somebody a permit. In fact, I'm going to override the Coastal Commission. I'm not going to let them get away with their antics.
Well,
Okay? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, I just want to thank you for your leadership on California water policy. You made it a priority from day one. For those of us in the Central Valley and Northern California, we have catastrophic wildfires as well. California is a wildfire-prone area, so ensuring reliable, stable water supplies is critical. And so your leadership, your executive order, moving more water, maximizing flows throughout the state of California, building more water storage, more conveyance, coordinating.
It would have a great impact on, I know your area very well. It would have an unbelievable impact on your area.
Absolutely. We just want to thank you for making it a priority.
Yeah. You know, even beyond the fire
Oh, my
stuff,
God.
the farms. I was driving up with congressmen a few years ago because they were complaining they had no water. And I was driving up, and you'll see all of this incredible land, but it's absolutely bone dry. And then you'll see little green patches, and the green patches are so beautiful. You know, they have that land, they say it's as good as Iowa farmland, but it has no water. And it's artificial, has no water. They send the water out into the Pacific Ocean. And when we let that water come through your valleys and down to Los Angeles and everything, you're going to have a different place. It's going to be a whole different place.
Yeah, he just wants water for agribusiness, dude. Oh my God.
So at least you said that, and I appreciate it. Because your farmers will be able to, instead of having 1 acre out of 100, which is all they have, they'll be able to have 100 acres out of 100. And it's among the best, they say it's the best farmland just about in the country, as good as any place there is. So But you can't, it's no good without water. So that's beyond the fire stuff. But today we're talking about fire, but it's good for everything. So I hope you can lead a group. And Daryl, if you can lead a group, I know how you feel. And, you know, support what I'm doing, because what I'm doing, I guess, is controversial. I don't know what's controversial about sending millions and millions of gallons of beautiful fresh water from the Pacific Northwest and further up than even that into an area that's bone dry. We have to, you know, I have a house in Beverly Hills, and you get notices every once in a while. They want you to go down to 38 gallons per person or something, per house, per person. I say, you mean you can only have, you know, 38 gallons sounds like a lot. It's not a lot. And they want to do that every once in a while, and you just think it's ridiculous when you have like just about as much water as anybody in the country, and we shouldn't be in a position where you have tumbleweed that's dry as a bone, that even tumbleweed can be nice and green and rich and loaded up with water, and it's not going to burn. You don't even have to remove it. It's not going to burn, but it's just dry. So I hope you can all get together and say, I'm so happy with the water that's going to be flowing down, because I just don't see anything. They talk about the Delta smelt, which is a fish that's this big, but it is really not, doesn't have to be protected because it's in other areas. It's in numerous other areas. So it doesn't have to be protected. The people of California have to be protected.
Mr. President.
Mr. President, could I just speak for a moment?
Kevin Kiley, California.
Yes.
First of all, you're absolutely right about the Coastal Commission. I've introduced legislation to rein them in. We've been talking with Rick about this.
They're out of control.
Absolutely out of control. It's insane the things they've been getting away with.
I think they thrive on it, actually, if you want to know the truth. So ridiculous.
That's right. They even tried to stop SpaceX from launching rockets.
It's true.
But you mentioned your predecessor and how he didn't fix the situation, which is absolutely right. Not only that, during the Calder fire, which was a few years ago, which was in my district, 600 people lost their homes in a town called Grizzly Flat. He came and he promised that he would help them out, but he broke that promise many times. He never delivered them the individual assistance they were asking for. So this has underscored for me the importance of helping the victims, making sure in this situation, in every fire, we get money to the victims, and we make sure that, that nothing stands in the way of that. But I just want to thank you for your focus on bringing sanity to California, water and fire policy. There's no place that needs a revolution in common sense quite like California.
You have so much water. Use it and be happy about it.
Mr. President,
be happy.
Mr. President, my name is Joel Pollack, and I am a journalist with Breitbart News, but I happen to live in the Pacific
Oh my
Palisades,
God.
as do
Breitbart.
other colleagues. One colleague, John Kahn, wrote the song
What?
Fighter, which you played at your campaign rallies. He lost his house and the studio.
Why is a Breitbart reporter at the emergency fire briefing sitting with like local officials,
when I got to my
bro?
house, there was no water in the pipes. So I got inside and I picked up the flower vases because I give my wife flowers every week.
Oh my
and there was
God.
water there, and we started with that. Then I found my son's bucket of baseballs, and I dumped the baseballs on the ground, and I used the bucket. But there was still no water, except for the water in the gutter coming from the burnt homes uphill. So I went to and fro.
Just a reminder that even Ben Shapiro thought Breitbart was far too anti-Semitic for him, and that's why he left Breitbart. Like, Ben Shapiro used to write for Breitbart, and he was like, yeah, you guys have gotten completely out of control with the anti-Semitism.
We were lucky our house was saved.
This guy seemingly does not have that issue, okay?
You don't have to rely on buckets to put out a fire.
That's right.
You can't stop an 80-mile-per-hour wind or 100-mile-per-hour wind, but there were many things that went wrong here that are basic and small. We did not have traffic police to guide the evacuation, so there was gridlock on Sunset. They've removed the vehicles now, but there were dozens of vehicles that were abandoned by drivers who fled for their lives because there were no traffic cops available. The fire department wasn't pre-deployed, even though there was an extreme wind event coming. And many of my neighbors lost their fire insurance in the days before the blaze. So I asked my neighbors, what would they want to know if I could ask the president a question? And the number one thing was insurance. Can you work with the insurance companies to get people back to where they were before they lost the coverage because of California's regulations? And can you make California change its rules so that when we build again, we can get fire insurance and we don't have to worry? And there's one other point I want to make. I really appreciate my congressman advocating for money. We need the money from the federal government. But I also understand Americans who are tired of spending money on California and disasters happen, and the California government passes $50 million to oppose your policies. So they have $50 million for that, but not for moving people into rental homes or helping people relocate or rebuild. I would like to ask you to follow the 9/11 Commission precedent and appoint a special master to watch the money, to make sure that every federal dollar that gets spent here is spent on fire relief and rebuilding and not on everything else.
Good idea. Here's a good one right over here. I don't know if you, do we all like
He's
Rick?
very
He
busy.
was ambassador to Germany. He was fantastic. Angela Merkel's happiest day ever in her history, and she had a long history, was the day I removed
This guy's a
him from-
plant? Oh, you think the Breitbart reporter is a plant? Yeah, of course. Of course. I mean, many of these guys have their own personal politics. Why do you think the other local officials were talking about redirecting water into agribusiness in Southern California? That's their own personal pet project.
group, which is fine. But Rick would be somebody that I would certainly consider. And Breitbart is fantastic, by the way. Congratulations on that. And I was so impressed with the firefighters I met before. And they said that, I asked them how many of the pumps, how many of the hydrants were working. And it was a, large percentage of them were not working at all. They had no water. And the ones that did have water didn't have a lot of pressure.
Wouldn't some of them be
And
libs?
one of the things that
I mean, first of all, libs are still 100% in the pocket of corporate. Libs are also still very much corporate captured. But secondly, no, there's plenty of Republican state representatives in the state. Like, California's massive. And there are more than 4 million Republican voters in the state.
Rick, you'll head up a group of people that would recommend a few people to me, maybe a commission, set up a commission. I like it because we're talking about a lot of money. The other one is Kelly Loeffler is now the head of small business. And small business is big business. It's actually one of the biggest banks in the world. We call it the Small Business Administration. And she's a cabinet member, full cabinet member. She's fantastic.
Yeah, instead of
her husband is the head of the New York Stock Exchange.
Instead
so they know
of
something about money.
instead of America invading and annexing Canada, I wish Claudia Sheinbaum would invade and annex California.
Almost immediately after
Save
she gets
us.
approved, she wants to come here.
Claudia
and,
Sheinbaum, save
open up
us.
small business to the area because they have a lot of money. I always say the small business is actually a very big business when you add it all up. And she's going to come here, and it's a very important thing. I want to thank also the First Lady because she wanted to come here. She wanted to be here. She has so many friends, and she also wanted to see North Carolina because that was another disaster that was so bad, so different, but so bad. And she just wanted to go there. We said we're going to stop at one, and then we're going to the other. In many respects, it was a depressing day, but in many respects, it was a beautiful day because the spirit is so incredible. North Carolina and here, very, very similar situation. Different, so different and yet so similar, actually. And so I just thought it was very nice. You wanted to be here, and we appreciate that. Jay? Is that local? You gotta. I don't want to be the only one to give you permits like in one day, and then I find out that the cities, the towns, and the state is not going to give you permits. And the problem with permits, it only takes one. Yeah. You might need 7 different permits. You shouldn't have any at this point. You should just let them build. And you're only as good as the weakest one. So if you have one that's going to hold you up, but the others are going to give it to you in 24 hours, it's not going to help you very much. So they have to work on that.
So, we were told last night 18 months, so that's not the answer. What is the answer?
It's what everybody said.
Well, and let me just tell you that we are going to do everything we can, slashing regulations, expediting everything so that people can begin the process right away. You know, we have the Disaster Recovery Center on Pico and Westwood. We have building and safety there. People are already contacting the local agencies. We're bringing our city departments together so that people don't get caught in the loop of going from one room to the next. We want them all to be in the same room so that you can get busy rebuilding ASAP. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And we will clear the lots, absolutely, in the city and in the county. We are working together. Both levels of government are working in unity. Yes.
6 months is no
Exactly.
good.
And the number one thing that we are going to do immediately, and you will see this happen, is to clear out the debris. And you know, we're concerned right now over the weekend because of the potential rain, but we are going to move as fast as we can, but we want you to be safe, and we want you to be back in your homes immediately.
But the people are willing to clean out their own debris. It doesn't
Yes,
cost
and
a
they
lot.
can,
You
and
should
they are
let them
able
do
to-
it because
No,
by the
they
time you
can do
hire
that.
contractors, it's
Right.
going to be 2 years.
If a family...
The people are willing to get a dumpster and do it themselves and clean it out.
And they can
There's
do
not that much left. It's all incinerated.
That's right.
And, you know, it's just going to take a long time if you do. You can do some of it, but a lot of these people, I know that guy right there that's talking. I know my people. You'll be on that thing tonight, throwing the stuff away, and your site it'll look perfect within 24 hours, and that's what he wants to do. He doesn't want to wait around for 7 months till the city hires some demolition contract
If
that's going to
individuals
charge him
want to build-
$25,000 to do his lot.
Yeah.
I think you have emergency powers just like I do, and I'm exercising my emergency powers. You have to exercise them also.
I did exercise them.
Because I looked,
signed
I
an
mean, you have a
emergency
very powerful
declaration.
emergency power, and you
Yes.
can do everything within 24 hours.
Yes. And if individuals want to clear out their property, they can. Yes, but you know
this
that you
is
will
so-
be able to go back soon.
Mr. President.
We think within a week.
That's a long time, a week. I'll be honest. To me, everyone's standing in front of their house. They want to go to work, and they're not allowed to do it.
And the most
a
important
week
thing
is
is
a
for
long
people to
time.
be safe.
Dude, what are you? That's
Safe.
crazy.
They're safe. You know what?
Like,
They're not safe. They're not safe now. They're going to be much safer. A week is actually a long time, the way I look at it. I watched hundreds of people standing in front of their lots, and they're not allowed to go in. It's all burned. It's gone. It's done. Nothing's going to happen to it. It's not going to burn anymore. There's nothing to burn. There's almost nothing to burn.
also, that's literally
And they
not
wanna go.
true.
The people
That's just straight up not
they're
true.
standing, and I say, why aren't you going in? We're trying to get a permit, and the permit's going to take them. Everybody said 18 months. You said 18 months. You said 18 months,
Yeah, they keep taking her mic away.
and that was last night.
I think they keep taking her mic away when she talks back.
Right.
Mr. President, we're going to be together next week, and during the interim, many of us are involved in, and Tom McClintock, who you know has been an expert on this for years.
Why does Melania have a
We are going to
mic?
be putting conditions on the money that do two things: require that it be done timely and affordable, and then secondly, that we protect those who will come afterwards. As we speak, there are 6,000 acres burning in my district on the Mexican border. There will be more fires until we include in any disaster relief items which will prevent it or at least mitigate it from happening again. So you're going to see us proposing both of those. The hooks-
Like water. Little
We're
things
gonna
like
do
water.
that for them.
You know, the party of common sense. See, we're the party of common sense. You're not, in all fairness.
Yes, sir.
We like water to put out fires. It's really quite efficient. All right.
Thank
Sure.
you, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
I'm Jay Obernolte. My district is just a bit east of here.
Yep.
And you were talking about the need to better manage our forests and our wildlands to prevent this from happening again. And you were so right about that. Just last year, a couple months ago in October, they put out a fire. The line fire in my district was over twice as big as the Palisades fire. And they put it out less than a mile from my house in an area where we had done thinning, and they stopped the fire, Mr. President, on a fire break that we had built a couple of years ago.
That's right.
We have an area just on the other side of my community that hasn't been thinned in decades because it's being held up by a lawsuit from an environmental group that says we're going to reduce habitat. Mr. President, we need to, in addition to getting resources and boots on the ground to do this treatment, we need to reform our legal system to prevent these lawsuits from tying up these projects for years and years and years. And not to say that the merit shouldn't be heard, but we need to hear them and we need to move on, resolve them.
Is this a state group? State or federal group?
This is a local group, actually, Mr. President, but they have help from the state.
They use the environment to make themselves feel good, and they're destroying our country. And you've got to, at some point, you've got to put your foot down. I know exactly what you're talking. You have local and state groups, and you have federal groups too. And you got to fight them the right way, because you'll never, even if the mayor gives, you're going to have a local group come in and sue. You're not allowed to go on your property. They're going to talk about asbestos and every other thing. They want to go on their property, and they want to clean out their property. And you cannot let anything get in their way. And you'll have this place built up quickly, beautiful. It'll be more beautiful than before. And I would do one other thing. I'd give them a 10%, 15% bonus on their house, because they went through hell. And they should be allowed to build a little bit, give them a little bit lot line bonus, give them a bonus on size, maybe a little bonus on height. They went through hell. You know, some of them had houses where they were restricted. They have to have an 8-foot ceiling. You let them have a 10-foot ceiling. Let them build a nice house, a nicer house than they had before. But I would give them a 10 or a 15% bonus on their plans. And I think it would be very well received, because they'll be able to build a little bit nicer house. Do you like that idea, by the way?
Oh my God.
They deserve it. Because you know what? It's not their fault that this fire took place. This fire took place, could have been stopped. It's not their fault. It's not the homeowner's fault. Yeah. And I think they should be entitled to a bonus on their house. Okay.
Mr. President.
Sir, go ahead.
Thank you. Some good news from Paradise. We stood together there 6 years ago, along with the governor.
That was so terrible.
That 3,400 homes have been rebuilt out of the 18,000 lost. And there's 400 more in the wings. And so FEMA was very helpful. Now my colleague who has Altadena here, probably a very similar situation. Clearing the lots, they're probably going to have to clear about a foot worth of soil underneath those foundations to get the toxicity out. So they'll need a lot of help. Those are working class folks in Altadena.
And we did a good job with you people.
And FEMA was extremely helpful.
Yep.
30,000.
That was the old days when FEMA was good. FEMA's no good anymore. Yeah. That was when we ran it. FEMA was very good, but now FEMA's not good.
We've got to get them on track. But on the water, thanks so much for your strong efforts on that. Right now, Lake Shasta, which is in my district, is dumping more water than what is coming in. So is Folsom Lake. And those are federal projects that should be building up, because we're latter January here. And you can't count on the rain and the snow coming every year. And so if we don't fill those projects, then my colleague in San Joaquin Valley isn't going to get his water for his farmers. Well, it might be all right up in the north. They aren't going to get it. And then the water needs to go through aqueduct for Southern Cal to refill maybe the Santa Ynez Reservoir that was empty during this.
You know, you don't even need reservoirs. With the water coming down, you don't need the reservoir. You have so much water, you don't need it. You only have reservoirs because you're trying to hold water. But you have natural water coming down along the coast. It's for 1 million years it's been coming. You know that, right?
Yeah.
In addition to that, you have a lot of half pipe. In other words, you have the half pipe that's built, and it hasn't been used. You see, it's bone dry. No water's been in that half pipe for years and years. It was closed up years ago.
Had the reservoir,
it's already there. Yeah.
Had the reservoir above Santa Palisades been full, they wouldn't have run out of water in a few hours. It would have gone for at least a few days with 40 acre feet out of 600,000
That
acre feet.
reservoir's been empty for a long time.
Yep.
It shouldn't have been empty. Okay. Any other
Thank you.
questions? Yeah.
I don't get
please.
it. Why are the
President, my
actual
name is Tracy
professionals
Park.
that
I
are tasked with water management not like
Pacific Palisades on
getting
the LA
factored into the
City
equation?
Council.
I've heard the exact
I wanted to
opposite
thank
from
you
all of
for
them.
The loyal support to our
Am I
military,
wrong? Maybe
our
I'm wrong. I
police
don't know.
officers, and especially our firefighters.
He's right. That's why.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is this
My
the water
top
pressure chart?
priority going
Yeah.
forward is to get these men and women
Like
home as soon as possible.
they're talking about reservoirs, but like I don't understand. They're talking about reservoirs here, but like they did not have adequate water pressure. But outside of inadequate water pressure, like the reservoirs were above average in terms of how filled they were.
I just ask for your ongoing partnership with FEMA and the EPA and our other federal agencies to make sure that we have a commitment across all layers of government to get these people back home. Thank you, sir.
I do. Thank you very much. It's well said. I do have to say FEMA is a big disappointment. We had it working well. We had great people, but FEMA's not good anymore. What FEMA did in North Carolina, you know, they still haven't even gone to certain areas. They don't know what they're doing. And I say, you don't need FEMA. You need a good state government. And when you have a problem in Los Angeles, or when you have a problem even in the state of California, you have your own, essentially FEMA. You fix it yourself. You don't have somebody coming in from a state where they have no idea, like Florida. They come in from hurricanes. They have people staying in Alaska, and now they see, oh, this is very nice. But by the time they get familiar with it, they don't know anything. The FEMA is a very expensive, in my opinion, mostly failed situation. We had great people. We did some great jobs, but each state should take care of their problem and get money from the federal government. It would be so much better, so much more efficient. So we're looking at that because we have had, and you're going to have problems with FEMA too. You've already had problems with FEMA. FEMA doesn't even show up. It takes weeks before they even show up. And what happens is the state then relies on FEMA, and nobody does anything because FEMA doesn't show up. So it's not a good situation. So we'll make some recommendations on that. But you have to push like hell to get the permits, because I'm just hearing things that I don't like to hear. I think you're not going to get your permits as fast as people are saying. We have to get them. And Mayor, if I can help you at all in that regard, you'll let me know. But you're going to have all your federal permits. That's going to be the easy part, which, by the way, is by far the hardest part. Do you know who controls your water is Department of Commerce, and I already have that approval. And that's usually a very long process, but that's the hard part was the federal, but we already have that done. So anything I can do, please let me know. Please, go ahead.
Mr. President, if I can just defend FEMA a little bit.
Yeah.
They brought thousands of people in. I don't know how they're doing in other states. They're doing a good job for us here. They've got a huge center that's open from 9 in the morning till 8 at night. But also, when you have a disaster this size, you need to be able to deploy thousands of people, which they've been able to do. Now, California, if we did it on our own, maybe we'd have thousands of people.
You do.
But if Rhode Island has a Palisades disaster, are they then supposed to keep
How many people do you have in California? 36? How many million? How many million people do you have?
What?
You have 40 million people. You're not going to get a few thousand people. The problem with FEMA is they come from all over the country. They end up in arguments with your people from California because they want to do it a totally different way. And I can live either way, but you haven't gotten very much done with FEMA and all you have to do is look at North Carolina. It's one of the great disasters of all time.
And Mr. President, you can't have Rhode Island maintain a staff of thousands and thousands of people waiting to see if they have a disaster.
You know who came in and fixed North Carolina or the process? Other states, people from all over the country came. And you have the same thing. You have a lot of people from all over the country. Getting the people is not a problem. Getting the organization's a big problem. FEMA's incompetently run, and it costs about 3 times more than it should cost.
I'm hoping
we
that
can
you
spend
can get
money
a
on
better
schools instead of giving money to bureaucracy. It takes you so much longer.
Mr. President,
it takes you so much longer
for helping our people.
FEMA has a standard, Brad, and I'm a builder. I was a very good builder. FEMA has a standard that's so slow. They want permit on permit on permit, and then they want permits on top of that.
Dude,
If
it's
you use
crazy.
FEMA, you'll be here for a long time. What I'm saying
It's
is
crazy that
get the city,
every
get the-
crisis is an opportunity to propagandize your ridiculous positions. Trump is using the wildfires to, one, advocate to gut FEMA further and possibly privatize the process, and two, using it for agribusiness to open up new waterways into Southern California. And this level of antagonism was certainly not in display when he was talking to the North Carolina officials. Like, what a ridiculous thing to do when you go as the president to California, to the site of the largest, most materially damaging wildfire, historic levels of destruction, and just yell at the local officials for like slightly disagreeing with you.
Insurance, because you made it so impossible. People that think like you made it so impossible. And you know,
Brad, me,
every
Mr.
insurance
President,
company.
I don't know what
I'll
you
tell
know
you this,
about my thinking.
I've never seen a state where almost nobody has insurance. And I said, what happened? And they said like 6 months ago they all left, and 2 years ago they had different quadrants, but they left. And you have very little insurance here. I mean, I've never seen anything like it.
We had a lot of insurance companies pull out, but I have no idea.
And the insurance companies actually have been warning you. Now, I'm not a big fan of insurance companies, okay? They have their big drawbacks too, but the insurance company, I read the papers very well, and they've been warning California for a long time. They've also been saying, we want water. You don't have water. You're supposed to get fire insurance. And the insurance company goes, you don't have any water in your fire hydrants. So it's a tough situation. I'm not a big fan of insurance companies. I get that.
They're pulling out of Florida
Brad,
as
you
well.
lost your insurance
Yeah, that's true.
company 6
What about
months ago
Florida, man?
because the state wouldn't give them what they had to have.
Yeah, and Mr. President, I remember the
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
I'm Ed Ring from the California Policy Center, and in the matter of prevention of fires, in the matter of the cost of rebuilding, both of which affect insurance rates, I think one, to support something one of the other participants said, a reform you might consider, and it could be an act of Congress, is that the losers in environmentalist lawsuits.
What are your thoughts about
face the legal
FEMA?
fees.
It's
and I think that would be a big step.
It's incredibly important, and especially important with the with the apocalypse scenario that happens basically monthly at this point.
And you could cut them down about 90%. Loser pays. You know what would also benefit? Medical. If you had loser pays for medical, your medical costs would go down by 50%. That's an interesting thing. I bring that up, but the only problem? The strongest lobby in the world, you know what it is? The lawyer lobby.
Oh, my God.
So when you go back to your local congressman, hello, congressman, how about going against the lawyers for a little while? No, loser pay is, very good. In Europe, they use it in certain parts of Europe, and they have very little litigations, right? Yes, please.
He's
Mr.
doing
President,
tort reform
represent
arguments.
The 27th congressional
He's such
district,
an old
which is
conservative
on the north
dude.
side of the North San Fernando Valley through Santa Clarita and Lancaster and Palmdale. I just wanted to tell you a story of heroism. Yesterday, we had another big fire. We had several big fires across, and this fire was moving fast. It was moving 1,000 feet per minute. But what these heroes did, the firefighters and the sheriffs and the law enforcement officials, they mobilized 4,000 people within about 6 hours. They mobilized 20 air attack aircraft and helicopters, and they saved the city of Castaic. And so I just wanted to ask you to join us in recognizing those amazing heroes.
I love that.
I think the thing that we all, and I'm very encouraged by your words, we're all here to help the folks here, right?
That's right.
And your words about building quickly, building well, but building quickly.
I live in Stockton, the county seat of San Joaquin County. This is a levied area that is not desert land like the South. There is a lot of water issues here based on subsidence from pumping groundwater. Taking our water would hurt us greatly. San Joaquin Valley is a neutral wetland and is levied.
You're going to take their guts. They're going to say, All of a sudden they'll start looking for houses, and your whole thing is going to blow up on you. These people want to get going. This place can go quickly, but you don't want to take their spirit away, and that will take their spirit away. So you're 100% right. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Sam Cedar tort reform.
They offer you 2% interest on that money. The treasuries are 4%.
Right.
They're expecting that, and that's the margin on the back.
That's right.
Could you please, just like you talked to the CEO of Bank of America?
Oh, you noticed that. Oh, look at this guy. He studies that. No, Bank of America, they're not nice. Sounds very nice. The Bank of America, they're not nice.
You tell the bank to pay us treasury for the money that the insurance set aside.
Well, we're doing numbers on banks, yeah. We're doing it. Is that Leonard Boxer next to you? Leonard? Huh? We have Leonard, there's Skip. I have them all here, huh? Look at Skip, I haven't seen you in a long time. You used to be a very good golfer. You still a good golfer? Huh? And he's a good guy, too. Hi, Skip. You got them all, huh? Got Leonard, Skip. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, I just wanted to say Paradise is coming back because of the help that you gave us.
Oh my God, Glaze, bro. He's been president for 4 days, man.
Also is because we want to help our
we did a good job with Paradise, didn't we? What a fire that was.
It was a terrible.
Oh wait, he's talking about Paradise. Never mind.
Were found, and only
that did happen under his watch.
Type of German
he let that happen. He let Paradise burn.
Right? You could not tell. The dog would go right up. There's the body, and the incineration was so horrible. So horrible.
Why does he always do this? You know what? The chatter might have been right. He might be autistic, bro. He does some shit that I find myself doing from time to time, where he just like will, in graphic detail, explain like horrifying events. Like when he had the hostage families, the Israeli hostage families in front of, behind him, and he was just like describing in gruesome detail how like Hamas had like murdered one of them or something, like one of their family members. It was just like, dude, what? Like, read the room, man. That's a crazy thing to do.
We flew over it, and you got a lot of dry.
The head blown off.
And the environmental.
And you know, I predicted this 7 years ago. I said, do it, get it done. And everybody laughed. They thought it was, I said, forest management. They thought it was such a funny term. Ha ha ha, that's so funny. Now it's not funny anymore, you know? We were right.
It's #1 cause of these fires. #1 cause.
You wouldn't have any fires.
Right. And if we just remove those environmental
regulations, the Palisades. Oh, what?
At the state level, they get in the way of us doing those projects.
Oh my God! In the same breath, he said we got to remove those pesky environmental regulations. I'm losing it, dude.
Stop them from doing a fuel reduction project. They said 18 months. That's where 18 months comes from, because at least 18 months on a CEQA review. That community is no longer here today because of the North Complex fire. We didn't build that project. We need to make sure that never happens again. We have to stop those things.
My man said pesky environmental regulations, right?
Unless you're very strong as a group of people and demand that you have the right to go onto your property and start the process immediately, like tomorrow.
Bro.
How many people did I see on your street?
Bro.
In front of their lot? The house is, there's really not much demolition.
Like,
it's incinerated, right?
Saying we got to reduce pesky environmental regulations while simultaneously talking about a wildfire is so insane to me. One, because environmental regulations are supposed to harden the infrastructure. That's a part of the environmental regulations. And a lot of these fires, specifically the one that he was actually victim to, the Paradise Fire, was a direct consequence of a lack of environmental regulations or not following the environmental maintenance rules that required PG&E to follow through on infrastructure hardening. So like this dude literally is talking about his own fire while simultaneously being like, yeah, we got to delete these like environmental regulations. It's like, bro, it's so insane. Like that's crazy to me.
And
that's crazy that these guys are saying like the thing that made this problem far worse, we should not learn from this lesson. As I'm staring at the rubble, the ashes, that is supposed to teach me that lesson, that when we do rebuild, we must rebuild with better fire standards. And it's crazy that they're like, no, build it in the same exact way and maybe even bigger. That's why you can't talk about climate change with people who want the apocalypse to happen. No, I don't think these guys are like religious nut jobs who believe that the apocalypse is going to occur and that a manifestation of said apocalyptic, the manifestation of the apocalypse is happening with like wildfires or whatever. I think these people are just capitalists. They are short-term profit seekers, or completely motivated by other short-term profit seekers, completely blinded by the commentary that they've heard. And in many instances, if they're in this room, they probably are just simply blinded by greed. And it's wild to me because that greed, this is such an American phenomena. Looking at mass shootings that happen on a weekly basis at schools and thinking the solution to that is not less guns overall, but more guns. Looking at a burning building and saying, we have to make sure that there are no environmental regulations whatsoever is the exact same thing. You literally are doing the exact same thing. I think you're too radical. You're right. I'm radical. The reality is I'm radical because I demand good governance. I demand our government to operate in the interests of the welfare of its citizens, myself included. That is a radical prospect in the United States of America. It is crazy. Am I willing to entertain the notion? Am I willing to admit that there are certain instances of regulatory capture or certain restrictions that might actually get in the way of maybe even hardening the infrastructure, right? Maybe making the forests less susceptible to wildfires, like controlled burns and whatnot. Certainly, I understand it. I totally understand it. Having said that, however, in terms of building code, in terms of rebuilding these homes, while I understand that we have to build as fast as possible for a lot of these people so they can go back to their normal lives, okay? And it's going to take it's a gruesome process. There's going to be a long and convoluted process there. It's going to suck. The reason why they don't have homes anymore is because there wasn't adequate safety measures implemented. So the notion that like we should cast aside all of the existing environmental regulations and restrictions that obviously clearly weren't even enough and build and focus on building as fast as possible in the least safe ways possible is crazy. I don't know, man. It's wild. It's a wild state of affairs. This is terrifying, man. It actually is. I don't think people understand. Let's hear what Fox News has to say about this contentious.
Insane moment when Brad Sherman, one of the Democrat congressmen there, was defending FEMA and saying FEMA was doing such a great job.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane to defend FEMA while they're literally working actively in the relief efforts in his own state for his own constituents.
Yeah, get rid of it because right now it's just a bunch of bureaucrats who usually clash with the locals. He talked about just having the state themselves handle these disasters and then getting reimbursed by the feds later. But it was an amazing thing to watch, a spectacle to see these politicians defend their positions and formulate new ideas on the fly. I don't think we've ever seen anything like that in the history of natural disaster recovery.
It's true, but it's sad for Californians, and I mean I Newsom wasn't invited, it seems, but for Los Angeles people to see Trump almost tutoring Karen Bass on how to do this. I mean, we need to have leaders here that can handle this.
Yeah, she was definitely in over her head, that's for sure. Justine Bateman, great having you on, and again, God bless all the people out there still suffering in Southern California.
Yeah.
Here now, best-selling author of We Who Wrestle with God, great book.
What?
And founder of Peterson Academy.
What
Dr.
the
Jordan
frick
Peterson.
is this guy gonna say?
It's interesting to see.
Bro, I want to hear Jordan Peterson's thoughts on the annexation of Canada. I bet you he's gonna love it.
Well, I guess we're going to see whether or not California and the U.S., North Carolina in particular, whether the governments at the local level are actually capable of getting out of the way. Because obviously with a disaster at this scale, anything that's hierarchical or
Wait, what the
top-down
hell does this guy know about anything? What is happening? Why are they asking this guy about any of this stuff? What does he know about government regulation. What does he know about California? He's Canadian.
Number of people possible in the shortest period of time. And that isn't, it was very interesting watching Trump talk to the other politicians because he is a builder. He's got extensive experience in the construction industry, and he knows what delays that might seem small to a bureaucrat, like a week, mean to people who are actually raring to go. It's like, no, we need to let people on their property so they can clean it up by themselves today. And if that's not obvious to you as a politician, that all that means is that you don't know what the hell you're doing. And so we're going to see if LA, if California can shake itself out of its bureaucratic doldrums and respond in the ways that Americans can respond to disasters like this and build like mad. So,
you're right. When you have a president who's a former developer and he's talking about getting rid of the Coastal Commission, all the litigation, the mayor and her permitting process, it's like he has better understanding of how to rebuild this part of the country than they do. And I hope he wins, because if not, people are just going to be standing outside in front of a burnt out lot for weeks.
Well, or months or years. Like he doesn't, in some ways, he doesn't even want to rebuild it. He wants to get people.
Dude, so much of Fox News coverage is just like, it's two dumb bitches talking to each other going, exactly. So much. I'm skipping that.